Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. How are you, Hannah?
I am well, and how are you?
Doing good. Good evening to you. We got a new Star Wars series that just dropped today, right? Yeah, today. No, yesterday.
Yesterday.
What is today? Say Thursday.
I spent all day yesterday thinking yesterday was Thursday. So today felt like Friday for me.
Yes. Well, I spent all day Tuesday thinking it was Wednesday. So I was actually on point today, but I just lost it just now. So today is Thursday. Andor debuted yesterday, Wednesday, with 3 episodes. So we will jump into that here later on. But first off, of course, a couple announcements. For one, as always, thanks to our patrons that contribute over on patreon.com/Inside the Force. Really appreciate you all. Of course, still supporting the show that way. Like I said before, things are I'm working on some changes here and there, so I'm planning on rolling a lot of that out here this coming week because the following week I will be gone. I'm going back to Disney World. So, yeah. And Hannah's a frequent Disney World visitor as well. So yes, appreciate that. And of course, I'll be hitting you guys up on Patreon first with what's going to happen on these changes. And then of course, I think you're gonna probably get used to Hannah being on this show with me going forward. I was telling her today, I was like, I feel I'm getting a little worried about me doing this thing by myself every time now. So it's way better to have discussions, because I feel like every time I've been doing this, I'm ranting for like 30 minutes and I'm like, God, if I was listening, I don't know if I would stick with it, to be honest. So Hannah has agreed to join me more often on this, if not every week. We'll see. I don't want to take up too much of her time, but thank you for doing this, Hannah.
Oh, absolutely. It's a complete and utter joy. So I'm excited to do a lot more of these.
Nice. Yeah. And I was thinking too, I was like, who can I even think about? Do I know anybody else that's got this, the knowledge and experience with it? And I was thinking, well, hell, I mean, Hannah's probably the only other person besides myself that is into this as much as I am with all but even not just the movies and books or shows, is obviously the books and the games and the comics and stuff like that. Cause we're doing Beyond the Saga, which we'll continue to do anyway. But, it just makes it a lot more conversational when you're able to reference these things and stuff like that. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
This is gonna be fun.
It will be, absolutely.
So the news, there really isn't that much news that came out from last week. A lot of the news dropped from D23 a couple weeks ago. Has it been almost a couple weeks ago now? And this past week was really just advertising and gearing up for Andor's release. So the only thing I kind of found and read was there was an interview with Tony Gilroy, who wrote the series. Andor is writing the series, and he had talked about the production schedule for season 2. And there was actually more rumors too that came out that this series was indeed going to be 5 seasons. Now, I don't know if you heard that. Yeah, it was going to be one season per year leading up to Rogue One, right? So what they did was they ended up condensing. This first season is still the same. It's going to be kind of over a span of a year, and then the next season is going to be 12 episodes, and every 3 episodes is going to represent a year. Basically, we're going to get closer.
Oh, wow.
So that's how it's structured. So we're going to end up getting 24 episodes of Andor, and that's it. So season 2 is going to be starting production here in November, And it is actually going to follow the same production schedule, apparently, that season 1 has. Season 1 started shooting in November of 2020, got wrapped up. Can you believe that? I couldn't actually believe this. I think it wrapped up till August of 2021. So you're talking almost about 10 months of production, which is pretty crazy.
Doesn't surprise me though.
Well, it only doesn't for me too, because of the practical sets that they've constructed and built for this thing. And then Tony said the reason why we're obviously getting the debut now, a year later from Wrap, is that it took about a year to do all the post on it. So it sounds like you can expect the same from season 2. They will shoot from November. He even said it, probably shoot in November, probably not finished till August. Go into post in August of 2023. And we will not probably see the debut of season 2 until this time in 2024. So about 2 years. Now, we were just talking about this, like, that I think that's too, I mean, I get it. I just think that could be borderline too long.
Really? I mean,
yes.
Like, personally for me, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I don't want Star Wars to turn into Marvel. I don't want this onslaught of TV shows and new information. So I'm okay with, if there was a choice between the two, I would rather it take a little longer to come out versus come out immediately.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, but when you say an onslaught of Marvel shows, I mean, we're getting an onslaught of Star Wars shows.
I agree. That's why I'm like, good news. Take a deep breath. Slow down.
But I think what's different right now in a way of Marvel is we have not gotten a season 2 of any show from Marvel. So
we've gotten a lot of season 1s.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they've all been technically they've all been one-shot series is what we're getting from Marvel. The only ones that I've even heard of that we may get a season 2 is Loki.
Yes.
And What If are the only like season 2s I've even heard of that they're even doing. And I think mainly because they were the most popular. But also because I don't think they have really any plans necessarily for those characters once they get introduced. They might start dropping in the movies and stuff like that, right?
Right.
But in Star Wars, we got Mando that's going to get a 3rd season. Mm-hmm. There's no word, at least I haven't heard it. Obviously, Bad Batch is getting a 2nd season.
Yes.
But I haven't heard anything of Book of Boba Fett. Andor we know is getting a 2nd season. Who knows about Ahsoka or Acolyte and stuff like that that's coming. But it has been a little bit of a slower drip, I'm sure, obviously, because we haven't gotten as many Star Wars shows as there has been Marvel shows. But I do think, and I think because, I don't know. I mean, the Bad Batch was a little different because it's animated. So if you kind of move that aside, like we had a large gap between live action series in Star Wars, right? When season 2 of Mandalorian ended, which I believe was early last year, early 2021, because Bad Batch I think was the summertime, right? We didn't get Boba Fett until Christmas. So there was almost a whole year we didn't get a live action Star Wars show.
But in between now and then, we are going to get, right? Unless I clearly am not remembering the timeline correctly, but we are going to get Ahsoka, right? Between now and season 2 of Andor?
Yes. Ahsoka will debut next year. Yes.
Yeah. And Tales of the Jedi and Acolyte, question mark?
Yeah. It never got announced at D23, okay. So it sounds like we're getting that Skeleton Crew show before
right.
Acolyte. So it does seem like now that they push Bad Batch back. So Bad Batch will be January, which means I guarantee it they push Mandalorian season 3 back. So probably I would say maybe even April or May the 4th.
May the 4th would make sense.
Yeah. And then I do think you're going to get Ahsoka and probably Skeleton Crew next year.
So at least we have something in between now and season 2 instead of
nothing. Yes, there will be something, sure. Yeah.
But I still, though, for me, I'd rather have that breathing time between seasons than something being sloppily thrown together.
Yeah, I understand, but I think a year breathing time is enough. Because here's the thing too, is I get why season 1 took so long. It's a brand new season. You're building new sets and all that stuff. Unless they're like completely different locations, which I guess they could be. I would feel like you have a lot of that going into production for this year.
Well, the thing is too, is that you said that season 2 is going to be covering the other 4 years. Every 3 episodes is going to be a year. I mean, if it's anything like the first 3 episodes, that's going to be a lot of bouncing around.
Yeah, true.
And if they're going with more practical sets, which I love, then yeah, that's going to take more time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we'll talk more about it here in a minute, but Andor does seem. Well, I'll get to that because I think that's part of my conversation I want to get to.
All right.
So anyway, season 2 doesn't seem like it's going to debut for a couple years. Production starts here soon, and like you said, we have a lot to hold us over in 2023. Okay, so besides the news, Hannah, you've been on the show before, so we kind of run through what's coming in the novel and the publication side. So on the novels, October 4th, which is rapidly approaching, is the start of phase 2 of the High Republic.
Oh, we have so much to catch up on.
I know, right? Well, we can finally do Into the Dark, so we got to do that soon.
Yes.
I did finish that, but we do have a few more novels to go through for phase 1. So Path of Deceit will be out October 4th, and then continuing with the High Republic on November 22nd, Convergence. And then the Battle of Jeddah, the High Republic, January 3rd. Now that is actually it's just an audio book. I think eventually they are putting it out on, like a scripted book like they have some of these other audiobooks, but that is an audiobook first.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Battle of Jeddah, which is interesting because they're using Jeddah a lot.
Yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars, which is the novel based on the video game series, comes out March 7th. That takes place between the video games.
Okay. Battlefront 1 and 2, you mean?
No, this is Jedi. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the video game.
That's right. Okay, sorry. My bad. Yes.
The next game coming out, it's called Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place 5 years after the first game. This book takes place between the 2 games.
That'll be fun.
It will be fun. I'm very interested in that. And then April 4th, there's another High Republic novel called Cataclysm. And then on May 2nd, the High Republic Path of Vengeance is the novel that actually ends phase 2. So,
dang.
Yeah. Lots of High Republic stuff right now. No other novels besides that Jedi Battle Scars that are on the list right now. In the comic world, this past Wednesday, you got Darth Vader 27 and Mandalorian number 3. Next week, you got Afra 24, Han Solo Chewbacca number 6. And then in the first week of October 5th, you got Mandalorian number 4. And on October 12th, Star Wars 28. The High Republic, #1, Phase 2 in the comic series begins. And then Star Wars Visions. I actually didn't know this. Star Wars Visions is actually putting out a comic.
Really?
Yeah, October 12th. I think it's expanding on the Ronin episode. Because it's that artwork
I'm excited about that. Then I'm really excited about that.
Yep. So that's October 12th, and then October 19th, Darth Vader 25, and then the end of October, another Afra 25. So those are your comics coming out soon. And I've got some comics sitting over here that we're going to dive into on Beyond the Saga as well. We're gonna start diving into some Afra. I think we got to talk about Afra. She's a incredible character that's getting some major popularity.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Hannah, let's talk about Andor here.
Okay.
The first 3 episodes. So to kind of remind some of our listeners and watchers here, you were on, I think, this show, right? A few weeks ago.
With Corey.
With Corey, yes, because we kind of talked about it.
And we called it Ambor.
Now he's watching it. He's watching it tonight for the first time.
Okay. I would love to hear things.
Yeah, he was texting me today. He was like, "Is it good?" And I was like, "I'm not going to say anything. You just go watch it." So let's just go ahead and remind people, what was your main couple statements of the series of Andor? Your anticipation, your excitement for it.
I think I said I was not excited for it. I thought it was unnecessary. I thought it was going to be awful. I thought that it was just Star Wars milking for. Okay, you can wipe that smug look off your face, Mister. I'm not
saying anything.
I put my foot in my mouth. I recant everything I've said. The first 3 episodes of Andor, I enjoyed more than Obi-Wan.
More than the whole series of Obi-Wan?
The first 3 episodes, I'm just basing it on episodes.
Okay.
I enjoyed it more than the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan. I am more hooked into Andor than I was into Obi-Wan.
Okay.
I take back everything I've said. I am dying to learn more about Cassian. I want to know where this is going. We haven't really, I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but I want to. I'm blown. Yeah. I am completely blown away. So I apologize. I was wrong. I am strong enough to admit that when I am wrong, and I was wrong. This is fantastic. That's all I got to say.
Well, I guess my first kind of question that I was going to throw out to you, I guess you somewhat answered it, but maybe you can go a little deeper, is basically, is it what you expected?
No, it's better. It's a million times better than I expected it to be.
So what were the things that hooked you really? What were kind of some of the things?
The lack of it's so weird. It's very much like Mandalorian when you first watch Mandalorian, and the fact of there's something very Star Warsy about it without it being Star Warsy. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't know how else to describe it. There isn't anything that's quote unquote typical as you would see in any Star Wars film or TV show, but you know it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe that.
Well, I know what you're talking about because I was kind of thinking the same thing when I was watching it, was and I'll just talk about one particular scene, but like the scene in it's the 3rd episode when they're kind of in that firefight.
Yes.
And if you think about that firefight, they're shooting back and forth. You could lift the skin of that scene, put it on Earth, and give them guns, and it's the same scenario. So I think that's what you mean by it's Star Wars. You know it's Star Wars, but it doesn't necessarily. I mean, it feels like Star Wars, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't scream Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, there's no lightsabers and there's no force, and it's there's not a lot of CG. It seems like in that scene, so it's like
it's incredible. And I think the other thing is that it's very similar to the Mandalorian until you see the stormtroopers. You know when it takes place, but you don't know when it takes place because you don't see Jedi, you don't see stormtroopers. Frankly, you don't really see a lot of the Imperial forces.
Not yet. No.
You don't see anything of the rebellion.
Nope.
So
yeah, it's normal life in the galaxy in this.
Yes.
Which I think is that another thing I was thinking about too, which is interesting, is I was thinking a part of me did for a minute there think, wow, I wonder if they had not done Andor, if they had done a brand new character, would it have been as good? Because it would have been interesting to see it just a whole new character and a whole new part of the galaxy, and we follow that story, and because then we don't know how it ends either at all. But I mean, I like Andor. I like, Diego Luna is obviously incredible. So it's like, I like seeing where his story goes, but I think you can actually do this with another character somewhere else in the galaxy and have a different story, because it is the normal life of somebody that's not fully in the rebellion, not fully in the Empire, but feeling the effects of what's happening with what's going on around him.
I think I personally would have had a better response if Andor was a different person before,
yeah.
Before, because it's like, oh, it's someone I don't know. It's, this completely new perspective. That would have been incredible. I think you're right. I think it might have done better if it was that case, because, watching Rogue One, frankly, the only person I really cared about was K2.
Yeah.
So for me, coming into this, I'm like, I really don't care about this character, whatever. I know he's going to die. Spoiler alert. Not really a spoiler.
No.
So, but now I'm totally invested in this character. So I agree with you. I think this is at least up until this point, it is totally a story you could replace Cassian with a completely new character that we've never seen before.
Right. That's interesting. Okay.
I also love the droid. I love the fact that we're carrying on the tradition that there is a lovable droid involved.
Yes. Very
I
cool droid.
B. I will die for B. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. So it was, I feel like it was what I expected.
Was it really?
It was.
Above or below that bar? Or
I had pretty high expectations though.
Yeah, I was about to say, you were incredibly excited about this. You were going in ready to, because Rogue One is one of your top favorite movies, right?
It is probably my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were coming in. So was it exactly that, or did it hit above it?
Well, here's the thing. So, Disney has been, or Lucasfilm too, they've been releasing these little featurettes,
Yes.
The last couple weeks, they put out the special look on Disney Plus Day. They put out this little featurette the other day, and that the featurette stuff, it doesn't hit me as much anymore. Like interviews and behind the scenes. Like I'm like, okay, I'd rather see some just good trailers or TV spots, right? So now D23, they dropped a new trailer, what they called the official trailer. It was only a minute long. But man, that was intense. I was like, okay, that was really good. I'm even more invested in it. And then my 12-year-old daughter, Sam, who I kind of like you, she wasn't really interested in Andor. She loves Mandalorian, loves Ahsoka, can't wait for that. Loves the Book of Boba Fett, loves the Bad Batch. We've been watching Rebels, for the first time. She loves it. So I was like, well, let's watch. She's watched bits of Rogue One, but she's like, hasn't seen the whole thing. So I said, let's watch the whole thing of Rogue One again and see if at least who he is, and obviously you'll see how he ends up. So we watched it Saturday night and glued. She couldn't take her eyes off the TV.
Really?
She was and she knew, well, she kind of was like, wait, does everybody die? And I'm like, you just got to watch, so So yeah, so she was surprised that everybody died. Freaked out when Vader shows up at the end, obviously, right? So anyway,
That is probably one of the best scenes,
right? Yeah,
in modern Star Wars history.
Modern Star Wars history, absolutely. And that was the first time we seen him be Vader, like in TV, on TV in live action. So then, fast forward to Wednesday, to yesterday, we sit down and watch Andor together, and going into, so we only got through the first 2 episodes last night, because then she got tired and was like, she had school today, so she went to bed. So we watched the third one today. Well, I stayed up and watched the third one. Yeah.
Don't tell her.
When she got back from school later today, we watched the third one again, and she got done with the third one, kind of like you. She's like, I am pumped for next week.
Yes.
And I was like, all right.
Words to you. I am so excited for next week.
And so she's hooked. She's like, I really like this show. And I didn't think she was going to be into it. Now, so all in all, my expectation, especially after rewatching Rogue One, was pretty high. It was up here. It was definitely like, if this is at all what they're describing, like if it's like Jason Bourne in Star Wars, like it's going to be up here, right? Well,
that's how you described it?
Well, Tony Gilroy wrote the Bourne movies.
Oh, shoot, you're right.
And this is all about espionage and spies and all this stuff. So yeah, he doesn't Cassian Andor is not Bourne by any means, but the way the dialogue is, the way the cinematography is, the way the stories are, it's going to be very Bourne espionage type, ish, whatever. So because I love the Bourne movies, so I think, my expectations up here. I'll be honest, watching the first episode, actually watching the first 2 episodes, I was more drawn into the cinematography of this thing.
Yes.
I think it looks amazing. I mean, I was looking at the scenery and just the backgrounds, and I was kind of like, I mean, that looks like, I know everything's not practical, but man, everything looks practical.
It reminded me a lot of Lord of the Rings in the amount of how much of it seemed very practical, which, I mean, yeah, a lot of my eye immediately went to the scenery, immediately went to the detail. It's insane.
Yeah, it's these, there's a lot of these grand wide shots, and the camera work is so good. I was drawn into a lot of that first, and I kind of like lost it out of. So it kind of not to the fault of Andor, but it kind of drew me out of the story a little bit. So by the second episode, going into the second episode, I'm almost like, okay, wait, what? Where are we at? Like, what? I gotta kind of regroup and really get back into it, because they started obviously bouncing back and forth too with when he was younger, and then present day. So I kind of went back and skimmed through it a little bit and kind of focused on the dialogue. I actually popped on the subtitles because I really wanted to see what they were saying and really focus. So anyway, my expectation was really high, and at first it was probably a little below it, but now that I've kind of understood what's going on and really paid attention, and it's definitely right now probably my favorite show, even though I don't even know where it's going yet. But right now, your what is Mandalorian your favorite show right now? Star Wars show, probably.
This might be beating Mandalorian.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So going into this though, it was Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, going into this, Mandalorian was my favorite.
Because I really like Obi-Wan. So.
That's.
I know. Oh man, Obi-Wan was probably my favorite going into this.
And now, do you think Andor might? I mean, obviously, we're only 3 episodes in, but do you think there's a chance Andor might beat it out?
I think it's a 99% chance. Yes.
Wow. Because I know how much you loved Obi-Wan.
Yeah, no, I think in the end, this is going to be an incredible show. I think because look, we haven't even, like you said, we haven't even gotten into the Imperial side or the Rebellion side with Mothma yet. I mean, Saw Gerrera hasn't even shown up. I mean, it's like there's so much that's coming that we don't even have, and that's what I'll tell you. I'll be honest. I was a little disappointed that we didn't see Mothma yet.
I was.
You wasn't? You weren't?
Here's the thing. I know pre-canon books, Mothma is such a great and such an important character. But now that we're focusing on canon books, I really don't care a lot about her. Is that bad for me to say?
Well, no, I don't think it's bad. I think it's a lack of storytelling. I don't think this is the first time we've gotten anything of her.
Right. Outside of like a couple of appearances in the books and things like that.
Yeah. And one appearance in Rebels.
Right.
Her scenes got cut in episode 3. So
I'm just excited I am definitely excited for Saw Gerrera. That's going to be, that's going to be great.
Yeah.
And who knows who else we might see along the way.
I know. There could be definitely cameos for sure. So it definitely met my expectation. I think but I put a pretty high bar on it. I put a very high bar on it.
I think one question we should definitely ask at the end of the season is, especially since you said you are at the moment slightly disappointed that we haven't seen some of those Rebellion characters yet. I think it'll be very interesting to, when we get to the end of the season, ask you if you think they timed that out appropriately,
right?
Or if you think they should have introduced at least a taste of them earlier on.
Right. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to hear what you think about that.
Well, and I think what's interesting is I think that even though, we just mentioned that season 2 is kind of 4 3-arc series, 3-arc shows in a sense, right?
Right.
I actually feel like we're going to get that same thing this season. If you think about it, these first 3 episodes were kind of its own story, right? I mean, So I think the next 3 episodes, roughly, I think there's going to be, kind of another story arc there, and I think we're going to get more of Mothma's story a little bit in these next 3 episodes. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Well, because I don't know, because the question is when does Mothma and Andor actually meet? Because the way the trailers kind of hint is that, which I think is very interesting, very similar somewhat to Obi-Wan, where you kind of had this expectation of what Obi-Wan was at the end of episode 3 and what we saw in episode 4, and you didn't really know about what he was going through during this part. I think this is the same thing with Mothma. I think at the end of episode 3, if you count the deleted scenes, which I think you should as canon, they started talking about fighting back in a sense, but it was political. It was like, they were signing this delegation of I think it was called the Delegation of 2000, where all these senators were opposing Palpatine having all this power, and they wanted it to return to the Senate. But since that didn't work, they thought, maybe we should still quietly convene and talk about how we can fix this thing. And then you fast forward to the original trilogy, we don't even see Mothma until Return of the Jedi. And that's because she is kind of in hiding. I mean, she's wanted by the Empire because she's a rebellion, the leader of the rebellion in a sense.
Didn't we see her in A New Hope?
No, she's in Rogue One now.
Right. Okay.
So we see her in Rogue One. At that point, she's leading the Alliance.
Right.
But we don't know, kind of, I guess the expectation and the perception is that she's been quietly building the rebellion. Well, it seems like through the trailers, it seems like she was kind of out of it. Like she was stepping back, like it's too dangerous. Because I think she even says, like, what you're doing is going a lot of people are going to die. There's that one scene. So I think we're going to see a struggle with her getting into it. I think there's going to be like, I don't know if we should do this. It's dangerous. We need to do this on the political side, not the actual fighting side. But I think she's going to come around for some reason, and maybe Andor is one of the ones that makes her come around to actually fight.
It would be really
What do you think?
cool if Senator Organa was also one of the ones that talked her into it.
Yes. I think he's gonna Bale's gonna be in this for sure. He's gotta
If he's
gotta show up.
not, I might be disappointed.
Yeah, I definitely would be disappointed, I think. Yeah. He's gotta be in it.
He has to.
Yeah.
So key.
Yeah, it's him and Mothma. I mean, they're the ones that feel like that really got these rebel cells together and started working together. So, but I think there's got to be some kind of struggle there with her at first. Not realizing that the political part of it is not working, and that there is ways to that there's groups out there that are rising up and fighting, and they need a leader, and they need somebody to kind of bring them all together. So, another question: what few things? I mean, what about these first 3 episodes surprised you the most?
Can I just say everything and just
everything? Yeah. Okay.
My bar was so low.
Yeah, because you weren't expecting to be surprised at all.
No, I wasn't. I was expecting to be like, oh my gosh, please, let's just get this over with. No, I think, first off, I think you put it perfectly, is in that in this moment, you could replace Cassian with any character and you would have the same effect. And that's not meant as a dig, that's meant as a compliment. Yeah. We are truly meeting this character as if we are meeting him for the very first time. And I think it's very difficult to do that. And they did that well. I think the practicals, as you mentioned, just blew me away. I was expecting so much CGI, but if there is CGI, they did a very good job hiding it because it seemed very practical. Bunch of lovable characters, and the fact that they made it Star Wars-y without it feeling like it's Star Wars is just insane. Like, it's everything I've said before. So yes, everything surprised me.
Everything surprised you. I think, definitely for me, it was, it definitely was like I said earlier, a little bit, the cinematography really surprised. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but I think it was top notch. I think it was unbelievable. I was a little surprised. I was surprised how fast or how much we went back in time. Really? Yeah. I knew we'd get it. I knew we would get, because I knew they casted a young Andor. But it seems like we're going to get a lot more. Mm-hmm. I thought we were going to kind of see quickly how it got started and then focus more, but it seems like we're actually going to get a lot of backstory of his childhood. I don't know if that's true or not, but it just seems like it is. So I was a little surprised we got that in these first 3 episodes. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I was a little surprised. Again, I was surprised that we didn't get Mothma yet. I thought there was going to be an introduction of her, at least in the 2nd or 3rd episode. But I get it. Now that you see it all together, I get it that wasn't the story. The story was Andor, kind of getting away from this problem that happened in the beginning. So that was really, it wasn't too many surprises. I mean, that's what's weird is that there wasn't anything mind blowing, like when you watch the first episode of Mandalorian and you see Grogu at the end. I mean, that's kind of mind blowing. That's kind of like, what is, not only is it like, oh my God, it's a baby Yoda. It's like, oh my gosh, where is this going now? Yeah. Like, you didn't expect him to keep keep the bounty on this. I don't know, whatever. It was like totally that, and I think that's what drew so many people in. You know, with this one, it wasn't that. There wasn't anything kind of mind blowing about this.
Right.
What was revealed, or in fact, they released the scene, the conversation between him and Stellan Skarsgård. You know, like that was already kind of out there, so you knew that they were going to have this conversation. So it's like, you know, again, there wasn't that many. There was that. I think what was surprising. I'll say one thing that was really surprising that kind of drew me in was really that first scene with the officers. Like that was like, wow. Okay, we're in this thing, right?
Like the funny thing though was I was like, that's so realistic though, and it's sad to say it is so realistic, but it is. It's not something you watch and you go, oh, that would never happen. Derp, derp, derp. No, it totally would.
Would.
So you kind of are like, I'm kind of rooting for this soldier, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's doing something right, but I also don't want to root for him because he's going after Andor. So what do I do?
Yes. Yeah, I was really drawn in right away just because of that scene. You know, you kind of you knew that he was you knew that he was ruthless because of our first time even seeing this character in Rogue One. But man, I mean, it was pretty awesome to see that early on like that.
I have a comment to make, but I don't want to make it because I'm really scared it's a huge spoiler, so I won't make it. But yeah, it makes you wonder a lot of things is all I'll say.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, we don't want to spoil too much because it's still early, but it's out there. Okay. What about, let's talk about some characters. What new characters kind of were you surprised with or drawn into?
Oh, I love B. I love that droid. Mm-hmm. I love that droid, and I love the fact that they bring so much character to the droids whenever they introduce a new one. Yeah. It's like each one is completely different. I also love Bix and Tim, who's this guy that she's sort of seeing and is sort of a friend. I also love the fact that even though we get the sense that Cassian is someone who doesn't have the cleanest past, has a tendency to get into trouble. Mm-hmm. He still has friends that will back him 120%. Yeah. And it's incredible. And it kind of makes you a little jealous in that you hope that you have friends that are like that, who you can go up to and say, hey, this is what we were doing. And they're like, okay, this is what we were doing. I got you. It's like, nowadays it's like, no, dude, I'm going to call the police. What's going on? So I don't think I'm giving too much away by saying that.
No,
but there are a lot of new characters that introduce several different dynamics. And I think what makes it such a great story about Andor is that all of these characters support his character one way or another. Yeah. And it just shows the type of guy Andor really is.
True.
What are your thoughts?
Well, and I was trying to look them up, but I tell you what one scene I actually thought stole one character. I thought stole the scene, even though he was only one scene. So when Andor, has that opening scene, that accident, and then that officer is standing in that office of his superior, and he's giving him the report, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
The superior officer, he was awesome. Like the way he talked, and how he just delivered his lines and what he said, and he meant it. I mean, I was like, that actor's pretty brilliant. Like, they casted this thing like crazy. But then the actual, well, his name is Kyle Soller, the actual young officer that made it a point to go after Andor. The character name is Cyril Karn. Officer Cyril Karn.
Officer Karn, that's right.
Officer Karn, yeah. At first, like when he started down this path of going after Andor, like you clearly hated this guy. Like it was like, oh God, he's just, I mean, obviously he's doing his job, but he's doing his job against his orders, right? He's already going against what, and that's the thing is like his superior got it completely right. Like he called the whole situation exactly the way it was, but he was still going to try to honor and hide it and somewhat scrape it under the rug and make these guys seem like it was an accident kind of thing, right? So like they died heroic, where technically they were bad officers. So I hated the fact that this guy was going against him, right? And it's like, God, what a turd ball, that he's going against his superior and he's doing this, and then he's yelling at people because they don't want to do they know that this is a hard thing to do, blah blah blah. Anyway, so he did a hell of a job making me feel what I'm supposed to feel, which is I'm not supposed to like this guy.
Right.
So Kyle Soller by far was like one of the best actors in these episodes. He was phenomenal, and
hands down.
And that face he makes at the end, like after all this thing goes down, and he's got this look on his face, like that. I mean, you need to give this guy an Emmy for that. Just these first 3 episodes, I think.
Please. See, here's the thing, though. You said like immediately, I didn't like this guy. We're not supposed to like this guy. I liked this guy from the get-go. Because to me, this is somebody who, like, from his perspective, there is something wrong and like fundamentally wrong that has been that's been done.
Yeah.
And so even though his commanding officer said, don't look into it, he chooses to look into it. How many times on the rebel side have they done that? Where someone says, don't look into this, and then they look into it.
Yeah, sure.
Into something. Like, so for me, it made me go, I shouldn't root for you, but I'm kind of rooting for you because I'm all for the fact that you are following what you think is right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get that. I think the flip side of that is this is one of the storylines, which they've done a few of these in the books, where he thinks obviously the Empire is the right side, right. And he thinks that the Empire is good and better, and anybody that's defying is wrong. The thing about it is I get it. I was frustrated with is like he was not only told to not do it, but he was told that these guys were bad officers.
Right.
Like the guy laid out, they were not supposed to be at this bar. They were not supposed to be drinking what they were doing. They were on duty, and they've been known to harass people in the past. So it's like, these are already bad guys. But so it's one thing to say, okay, these officers were good guys, and it looks like he got murdered. But these guys should have been fired. They were going to get fired anyway if they were alive. So so he's doing what he thinks is the right thing, but technically he's, again, in real life, this guy would get probably fired and arrested and probably be thrown in jail for breaking laws, right?
Oh, probably.
So yes, I don't like what he's doing because he's going against what he's supposed to be doing. But I mean, in the end, he got more people killed. So half his people are dead. So it's like, you can't sit there and say you like this guy that much.
I just appreciate where his heart is, and that even like
They killed Tim. Spoiler, sorry.
I didn't like Tim anyway. Like, so
Oh, I thought you liked Bix. You said you liked Bix and Tim.
like I liked his character, but if I had to pick,
He was dirty. I think he was dirty.
He was dirty. Like, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, Tim. Like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you from the beginning.
It's fun. It's funny that there's a normal name like Tim in Star Wars.
2 M's.
Yes, it is 2 M's. You're right.
I've never met a Tim with 2 M's.
No, that's right. That's right.
I don't know. I like him. I don't like him, and I like him. And I think it's because even though he knows, I don't know, maybe it's just because I always root for people who are willing to do what is right despite uncovering a cover-up or something like that. Maybe that's just the rebellious side of me.
Yeah. I think you would work for the Empire and I would work for the Rebellion. That's what I think.
You think I would be a part of the Empire?
Maybe if this someone you appreciate doing what he's doing.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I like his character. I get where he's coming from.
Yeah. I didn't get, I mean,
I never said I agree. Did I say I agreed with him and his choices?
Kind of. You're saying you kind of understood he was going, trying to find these the murderer of these officers, right?
No, because they're his colleagues. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
It's the idea of it's the idea that there might be, in his mind, there might be someone out there who's hunting them down.
Yeah. Yeah, but okay, and I get what you're saying. To me, I would have understood it more if he had known them. Like if they were his friends or something like that, right?
Okay, I can get that.
Then I would have been like, okay, I would understand. Okay, I'm going to find the guy that killed my friends. But he didn't even know these guys, and the officer and his superior was telling him these guys aren't good cops. So it's like, okay, if you're just you just want to justify a murder because you think you can do it, yeah, that's fine. I think he's a rebellious Imperial, is what he is.
So what you're saying is ultimately I would be for the rebellion.
Probably you would
Not
be
the
for the
Empire.
rebellion. Yeah. I think we all would. Yeah.
Oh
maybe.
yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting BuzzFeed quiz to take. Who would you end up fighting for? The Empire?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. If you randomize some different types of questions, that
Exactly.
yeah,
What's your favorite cheese? Blue cheese. You're for the Empire. What?
Yeah, exactly. That's weird. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, all right. So I guess to finish this up would be just to say, any thoughts on? Have you thought yet about where do you think it's going to go? Like
no,
these next few episodes?
I am blissfully happy not knowing where this is going to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You?
Yeah, I think. I think he's going to. I think Andor is still going to take some convincing to kind of join the rebellion, and that's the thing too. Is like there really isn't a rebellion yet, because we know if it follows, obviously, if it follows rebels, which it should. The Rebel Alliance doesn't actually form for another couple of years.
Right.
So he's just going to be going out and doing missions, I guess. It seems like there's some footage in the trailer that it seems like he does end up getting caught. It seems like he's like in a cell. So I think it's going to be a matter of, it seems like maybe he gets caught, and then obviously Luthen gets people to come out and save him and all that stuff. And I think he eventually, I'm more curious about, I am a little bit curious too about his past, like obviously he didn't grow up with technology or speaking basic or anything like that, educated. Doesn't seem like he was educated. I'm curious, what's her name? What's his mom? I guess his adopted mom's name.
Marta?
Marva. Yeah, Marva.
Marva.
Yeah. And see, that's where she's Marva Andor, so that's where he even gets the Andor name. So technically, he's not a blood Andor,
right?
So that's interesting too to find out. So anyway, I'm interested about that, like how he gets accepted. Like accepts that he got taken from his homeworld, but it does seem like he's got a purpose still to find his sister and stuff like that. So I think that's a pretty cool introduction of how that's going to go, and I think that's going to play into who he is throughout the season too. So
absolutely, completely agree.
Yeah. Anyway, again, blown away by the cast. I think the cast is fantastic. Like you said, Bix. I think Adria is her name that plays Bix. I think she's damn good. Of course, Stellan Skarsgård is awesome. And then Genevieve O'Reilly is my Mothma. She's going to be awesome. Of course, Forrest Whitaker's. I mean, it's just crazy cast. Anyway, okay, so yeah. So I'm glad you have joined me on this series, because kicking off Andor, especially because, next few weeks, every week from now on, we got an episode of Andor coming out on Wednesdays for the next 9 weeks. So we'll be talking about that as we go, and all the news that's coming out, especially the next series too. I'm sure a lot's going to be rolling out about the Bad Batch coming up as well. So, okay, let's see. I wanted to kind of read a couple comments here from the last episode. Let's see. I don't know if I talked about the D23 stuff last episode.
Yes.
Let's see. Thrawn Addict mentioned that he was a bit disappointed with D23, but I guess it's not quite Star Wars Celebration, so they don't release or reveal too much. Mando teaser was great, but I hear it's not coming out until May next year, which is a bit of a wait. But we do have Andor, Bad Batch, and Tales of the Jedi, which will be awesome. Can't wait to see Tales of the Jedi. Relationship with a young Dooku and Qui-Gon will be fascinating. It was definitely my favorite part in the Masters and Apprentice book with the flashbacks with Dooku, which I think you're doing now, right?
So good.
Yes. I was hoping we would get news or something with an Acolyte or Ahsoka series, because they're my most anticipated TV shows now. Even some casting reveals would have been great. Also a bit concerned about the movies, because I mentioned I was concerned about, I don't think there's any Star Wars movies coming anytime soon. He said, bit concerned about the movies as well. Feel like they are not really high priority for Lucasfilm or Disney, and wouldn't be surprised if all the movies announced, like Rogue Squadron and Kevin Feige, got scrapped. I miss the film so much and need them back. Give us an Old Republic saga already. Totally agree.
Oh my word. Please, please, please.
Yes, totally agree.
Do Old Republic, do Darth Bane, do something.
Yes.
Please.
Let's see, I got another one here. I wanted to bring up this real fast. Okay, so comments.
You could even do a whole trilogy from the Sith point of view in the Old Republic time. That would be interesting. Because that's when you had a bunch of Sith and a bunch of Jedi. I mean, follow a Sith going through the Sith Academy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, you definitely need that. Yeah, I definitely think you need that. I hope they can get there. And I think the Acolyte's going to start diving into some Sith lore and stuff like that.
That'd be good.
But you need to go further back if you want to get a bunch of them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you just did a trilogy about Darth Bane.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to look this up real fast, because we got another comment from Royal Farm Boy. He says, David, no, I'm an audio listener. Just finished the iTunes app and had a thought. Tales of the Jedi teaser trailer. He says Dooku is 3 of the 6 stories in Tales of the Jedi, which is true. Yes. One thing I've not heard any mention of is Mace Windu. Qui-Gon and Dooku are both 20 or 30 years younger, as you mentioned. Because I mentioned I don't know for sure, but it looks like I believe this takes place roughly about 30 years before the Phantom Menace.
Makes sense.
But he says, but Windu seems to look to be in his 40s or so in the Phantom Menace. Would he not be in his teens or so in these stories? Curious your thoughts. Like I mentioned, heard no other chatter on this. Yeah, Mace doesn't look so much younger as he does in the Clone Wars in this. I mean, he doesn't, but just to clarify that Mace Windu apparently was born 72 years before the Battle of Yavin, so before Episode 4. Phantom Menace is 32 years before that. So he would be 40 in the Phantom Menace. So you're right, World Fanboy, that if this was 30 years, then he'd only be 10. So then I believe I'm probably wrong about when this takes place then. So, but here's the thing is I guess, so Dooku is 102 years, was born 102 years before the Battle of Yavin, minus 32 years. He was 70 in the Phantom Menace. Right? So that would make sense. If it was 30 years, he'd only be like 40. And Qui-Gon would be, because I think the biggest question is Qui-Gon's age, because he does look pretty young in this Tales of the Jedi. So, I don't know. Mace, that's a good question. Here's the thing. Mace could be, maybe this is 20 years. So maybe he's 20. I do think he's young. He's probably young in this series.
Right. I mean, because I was about to say, if you look at Samuel L. Jackson right now, he does not look his age.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
So I think I was about to say that plays a part of it. But when you pulled up the numbers, so maybe it is only 20 years. Because I mean, I think
it could be 20. Yeah.
I think Qui-Gon that we see in the trailer could pass as an 18-year-old.
Yeah, let's pull
roughly Obi-Wan's age when we see him in Phantom Menace.
So according to this, Qui-Gon was born 80 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Okay.
So minus 32 is 48, right? Yeah. So he's 48 in the Phantom Menace.
So yeah, minus 20 would make him 28.
Yeah.
Huh.
I guess at that point he probably would be a Jedi Knight at that point. It doesn't say that he's not a Jedi Knight in this, I don't think. So he might not be his Padawan anymore. Maybe I can't remember if he says Padawan.
I don't remember if he does. It could be a thing like Obi-Wan and Anakin had it in Revenge of the Sith and in Brotherhood, where they're like, we're equals. Yeah. But you were my Padawan type of thing.
Yeah, because according to this, basically Qui-Gon is 8 years older than Mace. So I think I don't know. I think it's possible Mace could be a teenager. I feel like he could be a teenager in this.
Or are we just going to get, because, we see Ahsoka and we see Anakin in this. Could it be we just get a separate storyline with Mace altogether?
Well, I think there's a shot of him with Dooku.
Okay, and then never mind. I take that back.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that all takes place the same timeline. Like they could jump time.
True.
Yeah, which probably is the case. I would say that has to be the case. I have to look back at the trailer again and see if it's. I don't think young Qui-Gon and Mace are in the same shot. So it could be like maybe there's a 10-year jump. So which I think is realistic, because I think even the Ahsoka storyline jumps, obviously. So I would answer that question saying that I think there's probably time jumps going on during the Dooku line, and when we see Mace, he's probably in his 20s. That's what I'm going to go with, I think.
Well, I guess we'll soon find out.
We will. I guess I could end up retconning wherever, because this birth date of Mace is probably in some encyclopedia.
Right.
And they could retcon it and, make him older than what he is.
They could.
Thought to be. So anyway.
Who knows? Maybe Mace is some interesting human species that we've never heard of that happens to live as long as Yoda. So, I mean, who knows?
That's true. Yeah. Who knows? Okay. Anyway, thanks for the comments, guys. Thanks for the questions. We'll keep answering those. Send them on. The Mandalore podcast, where I co-host with Martin Donison there. We are going to obviously start that back up here as we cover Andor as well. And we go really deep dive into it. I'm talking like extremely deep dive, long episodes there. So I still haven't heard from him what he feels about it, but that comes out every Monday. Look for that, the Mandalore podcast. And then, of course, come back here at the Inside the Force and get us on Hannah's take and my take, kind of the overview of the episode. Less spoilery here. And, of course, go to youtube.com and get all of our rest of our shows, Council Sessions, Beyond the Saga, Masters of the Order, Dark Knowledge. And then, of course, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Inside the Force. Go check that out. Thank you so much, Hannah, this was way better talking this out. I wouldn't have done a good job talking about these shows without anybody else. So,
well, thank you. I'm looking forward to more of these. I'm very, very excited. Yeah.
Thank God you enjoy Andor, because this would be a very rough show if we were going back and forth about it. So
yes, it's like, no, there's no one to do. My point of view, the Jedi are evil.
That's good. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. We will see you next week again. You got some Beyond the Sagas coming too from me and Hannah. So take care. Have a good weekend. Take care, Hannah. We'll see you.
See you around.
All right. Thanks, everybody. May the Force be with you.